All right, let's get to it. So far we have the Super 73-ish retro wheelie bike in a good place, right? So the BBS HD is rocking, man, and the power level is much better than the BBS02, and it's running good. It wheelies good. So now we're going to take that BBS02 that we took off of there, this guy right here, and we'll put it onto this bike. So this is the next project. This is a Scott Scale 24 Junior Plus something. So this was my son's other bike. And right now it looks just a little bit different. Went ahead and stole these bars off of our other gravity fat bike Cyclone project, right? So, and was able to scoot this seat back a little bit, and the ergonomics are okay. I think we'll end up getting a not a banana seat on this one, but we'll get a IRD way back seat post to move that seat back like 2 inches. So this bike, 24-inch wheels. We've got some 2.5-inch wide hookworms on it. We did end up adding this air fork when my son was still riding it. It initially had that fork on there. This air fork was a big improvement for him. So this is a Suntour fork. It was, you know, a couple $100, but all the other spring forks for this were crappy. If you get them for a kid, if you get them with a coil spring, the coil springs are usually too stiff and they don't really work. So this was the cheapest air fork where you could adjust the air pressure and dial it in. So as his weight changes, you know, it works right. Anyways, all right, so we're gonna put the BBS02 on there. This BBS02 is meant for a 68 millimeter BSA threaded bottom bracket. And that is what this has, right down there, 68 millimeters wide, and it's a BSA threaded bottom bracket. Probably the most common type of bottom bracket. So what we will end up doing is taking those cranks out and putting that BBS02 in place. So let's get to it. First, let me flip this thing over. Okay, so now we're upside down. You can see how this is threaded and the other side is. So first thing we're going to do is remove both pedals. So pedals on the chainring side are threaded normally. Pedals on the opposite side are reverse threaded. So left side, or the right side, chainring side, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Left side, lefty tighty, righty loosey. Let's get those off. All right, pedals are off. Let's go ahead and take that chain off. Now these cranks, you could reuse these cranks, but you would have to cut. Looks like my light's messing around there. Sorry, dudes. Cut the sprocket off. Anyways, let's take these crank arms off. So first, we're gonna pull out this center fastener. All right, so we got that fastener out. We're gonna use this tool to pull this off. This will thread in to the crank arm itself, and then you spin this handle and it'll push the crank arm off. Okay, now let's get this bottom bracket out. So this bottom bracket is a set of bearings for this axle, right? This piece is threaded in from this side, and this piece is threaded in from the other side. Now, on our pedals, the crank side was correctly threaded, so the right side was right, and the left side was wrong. Then when we get to the bottom bracket, it's the opposite. The left side is right, and the right side is wrong. So the right side being side your right foot is on when you're riding, where the sprocket is. So this is left-hand thread, meaning you turn it clockwise to remove it. And this is right-hand thread, which means you turn it counterclockwise. Now it has this lock ring, which we're going to unthread, and this side is normally, so we're going to turn it counterclockwise. We could do it a couple of different ways. There's a tool that actually fits on there. You could take a punch and stick it right there and hit it with a hammer. That's probably what I'll do real quick, and we'll spin that off real quick. All right, so that lock ring's off. Now you can see the serrations in here perhaps. There's a tool that interfaces with that. Let's see if we can get in there. Oh look, it's already spinning. So this side, after the lock ring broke free, was quite loose. So I'm actually spinning this one out with my hand. So this one is right hand thread, so lefty loosey. Now this side, let's see. All right, I gotta use both hands, hang on. All right, well this side was tighter. I had to switch to a different tool, this one, which interfaces right there, right? And then put that big adjustable wrench on it. But anyways, now I can spin this. So this one, as you can see, it looks like I'm tightening it, but I'm loosening it up, right? So that spins this side out. All right, so now we got it out. So you can see this side gets threaded in until it bottoms, right? Then this side, you can see the bearing in there, gets pulled on here, and you tighten it up and you spin this till you get the free play that you want. Well, no free play, but free, no perceptible free play, and it spins freely. Then you get that, tighten that till you get to right where you want, and then you put that lock ring on when you're putting this together. So we pulled it out. BBS02 is going to go in its place. Here's something that I've run into a couple of times. So you can see how these tubes are made into the frame. Sometimes there's a burr right there. So when you try to slip the your BBS system through there, it hangs up and it doesn't want to go. So sometimes you got to get in there and file it down a little bit. Let's see if ours fits in. I'm going to clean it out and then we'll slip it in. All right, well, it slipped in there with just a little bit of interference. So you can see how it's a little hard to spin in there, but that's good. So it slipped all the way in. And what normally prevents this rotation on these BBS systems is this washer right here, which is going to go on here, right, and then bolt on there, and a nut tightens it down. It has these serrations, these things that are sticking up, and they dig into this aluminum. And when you tighten this down, then when you pull it off, it'll leave dents in there. But it's been my experience that that doesn't hold it good enough oftentimes. So when you apply throttle, the motor is trying to spin the back wheel and it's trying to spin the motor against this tube. But as you go over bumps, sometimes the weight of this wants to spin it this way. So I've had these kind of get loose. You go over a few bumps or drop the front wheel hard after a wheelie, this is loose, and you hit the throttle and this goes slam, right? No bueno. So what I do is I just take a big ass hose clamp and I cover the hose clamp with some heat shrink, right? Loop one around here, and then I take another one and we'll go through here and clamp it on there, and it's just a extra measure of security. Let me get that on. I will get this on and it should be locked down in place. All right, so it's on there, man. We got it clamped down with these fasteners in there, strapped down. That thing ain't going nowhere. Let's see how these cranks fit. So this is the original crank. And on the left side of the bike, looks like it would work fine. What do we got? Just under 2 fingers. On this side, with this same one, there are maybe 2.5 fingers. So this thing isn't exactly centered because of this gear, right? But I've had this on a bunch of them, and there really is no, you can't feel that when you're riding. Now, as an option, this does have an offset, right? So we could put, I have some straight cranks that are, so these are from, if you Google unicycle cranks. So if we had a straight one there, we're back to 2 fingers. Let's see if a straight one will actually fit here. Get on there. Let's see. So you could go with 2 straight ones and have the narrowest pedals, and they'd be offset just a little bit to one side. Or you could go a little wider, and what else do I gotta, this one is not the same length as that, but I do have some, yes, I got. So these guys are the same length as these. So if I put one offset, and then you could have, you know, perfect width centered, straight on one side and offset on the other. Maybe that's what I'll do. I think I'm just gonna go with those straight ones. Keep it narrow. You know, we'll see. Maybe we'll go like this. Now the other thing we got to see is the chain ring. So this system comes with this offset chain ring. Man, it was 2016 or something when I bought this. I bought this when Luna Cycles just started up. I was one of their first customers. This was one of the first BBS02s they sold. They weren't even selling the BBS HD yet. So I don't know where that sprocket is. I have this HPC adapter. I've shimmed this. This is a 42, and it's as close to the center line as physically possible. Let's see what kind of chain line we get with that. Hopefully it'll be good enough for testing. All right, hang on. Okay, so I didn't show you on the original crank. I measured from the seat tube to the crank was 35 millimeters. Now with this setup, it's 45 millimeters. So it's 10 millimeters more to the outside. And gears on these 7-speed are about 5 millimeters apart. So that means that, you know, this probably is not good for gears 1 and 2, but we can make it work for this. We can get a offset Lecky chain ring that has the same number of teeth, but you know, it is curved, so it offsets it. I think they're 9 millimeters, which would make it perfect. Or if you bought a BBS02 and put it on here, the original one would be perfect. But there's no interference with the frame anywhere. Like, it just goes right on. And if you had this same bike and you wanted to put a BBS HD on it, it would just bolt right on. You'd get the 68 millimeter bottom bracket one, and it should go right on. The stock chain ring would probably work. So these kids bikes turn out to accept these BBSs very readily. So on adult bikes, the wheels are much larger in diameter. So this chainstay is usually curved. This curve is much closer to the bottom bracket. And then you run into problems where this gear housing is hitting this, right? But on these kids bikes, man, it's just like a slam dunk, man. They just go on. And then with this level of power with these short wheelbases, I like. All right, so let me put a chain on it and let's see what happens. Yep, looks like a Lecky that is offset chain ring will not hit the frame with the same 42 tooth diameter. So we were, they also make a 46, I think, and that one might be close. I think we'll, if this turns out nice, like it works good in these gears, we'll get the Lecky and we'll put the right length chain on. For testing for this first pass, let's just leave this on. It's got 42 teeth. We have 4 gears to choose from. And, you know, those lower gears, we probably won't use those anyways. So let me put some crank arms on it. What do you think? Should we just go with... All right, let's do a straight and offset that gives us the a standard width Q factor. I know the colors. Let's try that. All right, so here's the choices we made. These are unicycle cranks. They are 140 millimeters long, and this one is straight. This is the original crank off of that bike, also 140 millimeters long, but has a bit of an offset. So when we use these two together, we get 2 fingers here, 2 fingers here, and these are, I think, about 10 millimeters shorter than the original cranks on this bike. So on that bike, actually, we're running some really short, like 120s or 130s. So the short cranks are good. We don't pedal very much. We just help a little bit on these with the motor. So short crank arms is good. So if you wanted to get this same setup, what you could do is, this is the original crank arm from the right side. It has the offset. If you got a aluminum unicycle crank arm for the right side that was this same length, and I assume this is about 150 millimeters, you could achieve this same Q factor. Q factor is the spacing between the pedals, right? So it is perfectly centered on this bike. You know, again, I don't notice it when it's not. So, you know, I just going this way because I got the stuff laying around. But if you just, you could, with this, if you were putting this onto this bike, you could just take the stock crank arms and take the right side, and this steel sprocket is just peened onto this aluminum crank arm. So you could just knock that off with a hammer. Use both these guys with your BBS02, BBS HD, Scott scale Junior 24 plus, and you'd be rolling. All right, let me flip this thing over and see what we got. All right, well, there it is. I think it's looking pretty good. Rundown, we mechanically installed the BBS02 onto this Scott Scale Junior 24 Plus bike that has 24-inch wheels and 2.5 hookworms. So pretty much the wheels and tires are the same that you would find on that ZOOZ. Now, that ZOOZ and the Super 73, those guys, so that's kind of a spin off of that, right? Those guys have 750 watt hub motors, right? So here we have 1500 over here and 1250 over here, and we're running it through the gears, which means that we can get more torque if we want to do some lower speed wheelies, right? We just drop it down into a lower gear. So we ran that one just recently, and that's straight from Luna with the their you know, claimed hot rod settings in the controller. They worked perfect with our, you know, display elimination setup. And so we'll do another video, and we will attach the laptop, and we'll get a reading on those settings. And then I think we'll go ahead and set this the same way, because those seem to work really well. This one always seemed underpowered, and we had changed a variety of settings, so maybe we'll get a baseline and swap that. This one, some regular bike stuff left to be done. We're going to keep these cable operated brakes for now, but I have to put new cables on, new shift cable, because of this new higher bar. We're going to temporarily borrow the grips and the throttle from the Super 73, right, to get that on there. We're going to use the batteries from the white bike, but we're going to build a real quick tray just to bolt in right here. And yep. All right, see you.